Change is never free. It asks for your habits, your excuses, sometimes even the identity you've been hiding behind. Most people say they want a better life, but very few are willing to pay the price for it. And that price is sacrifice. If you're feeling stuck, restless, or quietly disappointed with who you've become, this isn't a coincidence. It's a signal. Stay with me, because the discomfort you're avoiding might be the doorway you've been looking for. Number 1, change demands loss. Change is often marketed as addition. More success, more confidence, more freedom. But that framing is incomplete. Real change begins with subtraction. You don't move forward by piling new habits on top of a life that's already misaligned. You move forward by removing what no longer fits. Every meaningful transformation asks a difficult question first. What are you willing to give up? Old routines, familiar identities, comfortable narratives about who you are and why you are the way you are. Loss isn't a side effect of change, it's the entry fee. And the more significant the change, the more personal the loss feels. What makes this so hard is that much of what must be lost once kept you safe. Old coping mechanisms, even unhealthy ones, served a purpose at some point. Procrastination protected you from failure. People-pleasing protected you from rejection. Comfort protected you from uncertainty. Letting go of these things feels dangerous because your nervous system remembers the relief they once provided. Change, then, feels like betrayal, not of others, but of the version of yourself that survived by holding on. That internal conflict is where most people stop. They interpret the fear as a warning rather than as evidence that they're finally approaching something real. Loss also strips away illusions. When you change, you lose the excuse that circumstances are entirely to blame. You lose the comfort of saying, "This is just how I am." Responsibility replaces ambiguity, and that can feel heavier than any external obstacle. You begin to see that some doors stayed closed, not because you lacked talent, but because you avoided the cost of walking through them. That realization stings. It forces honesty, and honesty, before it empowers, destabilizes. There is also social loss. Growth quietly rearranges your relationships. Some people won't recognize you when you stop playing the role they benefited from. Others will feel threatened when your standards rise, because it reflects the choices they haven't made. Change can isolate you before it strengthens you. It can make you lonely before it makes you grounded. This is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's often proof that you've stopped negotiating your life around external comfort. Loss narrows your world before it expands it. It clears space. It demands precision about what truly matters and what you've been dragging along out of habit or fear. When change demands loss, it's not trying to punish you, it's trying to unburden you. What falls away was never meant to come with you, and what remains has to be strong enough to stand without it. Number 2, comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort feels harmless, even deserved. It tells you that you've worked hard enough, that you've earned rest, that nothing urgent needs to change right now. And in small doses, comfort is necessary. But when it becomes a lifestyle, it quietly erodes your capacity to expand. Growth depends on tension, on stretching beyond what feels familiar, and comfort dissolves that tension before it can do its work. It smooths over dissatisfaction and replaces it with distraction, convincing you that stability is the same as progress. The danger of comfort isn't laziness, it's numbness. You can be busy, productive, and still deeply comfortable. You can fill your days with routine and mistake repetition for momentum. Comfort keeps you operating within known limits, where your skills are adequate and your identity remains unchallenged. There is no urgency to refine yourself when nothing is demanding more from you. Over time, this creates a quiet stagnation that doesn't feel like failure, but slowly becomes it. Comfort also distorts your relationship with effort. When life is organized around avoiding discomfort, effort starts to feel like a threat instead of a tool. Challenges are delayed, difficult conversations are softened or skipped, and goals are downsized to match what feels manageable. You don't consciously choose less, you simply stop choosing more. The nervous system learns that safety comes from staying the same, and growth becomes associated with unnecessary risk rather than necessary development. What makes comfort especially deceptive is that it often looks responsible. Stability, predictability, and ease are praised so long as they don't appear indulgent. But growth requires instability. It requires entering spaces where you are inexperienced, where feedback is uncomfortable, and where outcomes are uncertain. Comfort resists this by offering reassurance instead of truth. It tells you that you're fine as you are, even when the quiet frustration beneath the surface suggests otherwise. Over time, comfort narrows your tolerance for difficulty. Small challenges feel overwhelming because your capacity hasn't been tested. Resilience weakens when it's not used. You begin to protect your peace instead of strengthening it, avoiding stress rather than learning how to carry it. This creates fragility, not safety. Growth asks for exposure, to effort, to risk, to failure, and comfort negotiates those demands down until there's nothing left that can change you. Number 3, sacrifice clarifies priorities. Sacrifice strips life down to what actually matters. When everything is available, choices feel abstract and values remain theoretical. You can say that health, purpose, discipline, or family are important, but those words mean very little until they cost you something. Sacrifice forces specificity. It removes the illusion that you can have everything at once and demands that you decide what deserves your time, energy, and attention. What you are willing to give up becomes a more honest measure of your priorities than anything you claim to believe. When sacrifice enters the picture, indecision disappears. You stop pretending that competing desires can coexist indefinitely. Late nights, comfort, approval, convenience, these things reveal their true rank the moment they interfere with something you say you care about. Sacrifice exposes contradictions between intention and action. It shows you where your loyalty actually lies, not where you wish it did. This clarity can be uncomfortable because it dismantles self-deception. You are confronted with the reality that priorities are not declared. They are enforced through loss. Sacrifice also reorganizes attention. When resources are limited, focus sharpens. You begin to protect what matters instead of treating it casually. Time becomes deliberate. Energy is no longer wasted on pursuits that offer short-term relief, but long-term emptiness. Sacrifice teaches restraint, not as punishment, but as alignment. By saying no to one path, you give another the room it needs to develop fully. Without sacrifice, everything remains half-committed and nothing reaches depth. There is also an internal shift that happens when sacrifice becomes voluntary rather than forced. Choosing to give something up strengthens agency. It turns discipline into a form of self-respect. You begin to trust yourself because your actions match your stated values. That trust compounds. Each sacrifice reinforces identity. This is the kind of person I am becoming. This is what I stand for. This is what I protect, even when it costs me comfort or ease. Sacrifice clarifies priorities because it introduces consequences. It removes ambiguity. It demands that you live with the results of your choices rather than postponing them indefinitely. In that pressure, what truly matters rises to the surface, not as an idea, but as a pattern of behavior you can no longer ignore. Number 4, pain precedes transformation. Pain is the signal that something is no longer sustainable. It appears when the gap between who you are and who you need to become grows too wide to ignore. Transformation does not begin with clarity or confidence. It begins with discomfort, with the realization that the current way of living is costing more than it's giving. Pain disrupts denial. It forces attention. Without it, there would be little reason to change, because familiarity, even when limiting, feels safer than uncertainty. What makes pain so effective is that it removes illusion. It strips away the stories you tell yourself to stay comfortable. When things hurt, you can no longer pretend that everything is fine. The body, the mind, and the emotions align around a single message. Something must shift. This is why avoidance only delays transformation rather than preventing it. Pain doesn't disappear when ignored. It intensifies. It accumulates until change becomes unavoidable, whether chosen consciously or imposed by circumstance. Transformation requires dismantling before rebuilding. Old patterns break down under pressure. Beliefs that once felt stable begin to crack. This stage feels chaotic because the familiar structure is gone, but the new one hasn't formed yet. Pain lives in that in-between space. It's the cost of transition. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. The nervous system resists this state because it thrives on predictability, even when predictability is harmful. Pain also tests commitment. Many people like the idea of change, but retreat when it becomes uncomfortable. Transformation asks you to stay present when escape would be easier, to tolerate uncertainty without rushing to numb it. This endurance is what reshapes capacity. By sitting with pain rather than fleeing it, You expand your ability to carry responsibility, effort, and truth. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, not because it vanished, but because you grew. There is a sharpening that happens through pain. Priorities clarify, distractions lose their appeal. Superficial concerns fall away because survival, psychological or emotional, demands focus. Pain narrows your field of vision to what is essential. In that narrowing, depth replaces breadth. You stop chasing comfort and start seeking stability within yourself, built through resilience rather than avoidance. Pain precedes transformation because it provides the friction necessary for change. Without resistance, there is no adaptation. Without pressure, there is no reorganization. Pain initiates the process by breaking what can no longer support the weight of who you are becoming. Number 5, responsibility accelerates change. Responsibility shifts the center of gravity from the world to the individual. The moment you accept that your life is shaped primarily by your choices rather than your circumstances, movement becomes inevitable. Change speeds up because there is no longer anywhere to hide. Blame loses its usefulness. Excuses lose their power. Responsibility creates urgency, not through pressure from outside, but through internal alignment with reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When responsibility is avoided, change drags on indefinitely. Problems remain abstract because no one is fully accountable for solving them. You wait for motivation, permission, or better conditions. Responsibility ends that waiting. It turns intention into obligation. Once you decide that something is your responsibility, inaction becomes uncomfortable. You begin to feel the weight of delay. That weight pushes you forward faster than inspiration ever could because it is grounded in consequence. Taking responsibility also reorganizes how you interpret failure. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof of inadequacy or bad luck, they become data. Feedback replaces self-pity. This shift accelerates learning. You stop asking why something happened to you and start asking what you can adjust. That question is active, not passive. It produces movement. Responsibility transforms obstacles into mechanisms for refinement rather than reasons to retreat. There is a psychological strengthening that comes with responsibility. Carrying weight builds capacity. Each commitment you honor increases your tolerance for effort and complexity. You become more reliable to yourself, which reduces internal conflict and hesitation. Decision-making sharpens because you understand that choices are not neutral. They shape outcomes. With responsibility, clarity replaces confusion, and clarity speeds action. Responsibility also narrows focus. When everything is someone else's fault, attention scatters. When it's yours, attention concentrates. You prioritize what you can influence and release what you can't. This efficiency compounds. Energy once spent on frustration or comparison gets redirected into execution. Progress becomes visible, which reinforces further responsibility, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of change. Accepting responsibility is not about self-blame. It's about ownership. It doesn't deny external difficulties, but it refuses to let them dictate the pace of your life. Responsibility compresses time by forcing decisions now rather than later. It collapses the distance between awareness and action, turning slow intention into immediate movement. Number 6, delay compounds regret. Delay rarely announces itself as a decision. It disguises itself as caution, preparation, or waiting for the right moment. It feels reasonable, even responsible, to postpone action until conditions improve or confidence arrives. But time does not pause while you wait. Each delay adds another layer to the distance between who you are and who you could have been. Regret does not come from a single missed opportunity. It accumulates quietly through repeated hesitation. What makes delay so destructive is that it reinforces itself. The longer you wait, the heavier the first step feels. Momentum decays, and fear fills the space where action should have been. You begin to doubt not just the timing, but your own capability. Delay trains the mind to associate movement with risk and stillness with safety. Over time, this pattern becomes identity. You don't just postpone change, you start seeing yourself as someone who does. Regret grows in proportion to awareness. When you know what needs to be done and still avoid it, the internal cost rises. Each day of inaction becomes evidence against the person you want to believe you are. This creates a low-level tension that never fully leaves. You carry it into other areas of life, where it drains energy and erodes self-trust. Delay doesn't preserve peace. It corrodes it slowly, replacing clarity with unease. There is also a narrowing of options that comes with waiting. Time is not neutral. Certain paths require early commitment, sustained effort, or gradual accumulation. Delay closes doors not through dramatic failure, but through missed alignment. Opportunities don't disappear all at once, they drift out of reach. When you finally feel ready, the context has changed, and what was once possible now demands a steeper cost. Delay compounds regret because it robs you of feedback. Action, even imperfect action, produces information. Waiting produces nothing. Without feedback, growth stalls, and imagination fills the gap with worst-case scenarios. You end up fearing outcomes you haven't tested, trapped in anticipation rather than reality. The mind becomes crowded with hypothetical futures, while the present remains untouched. As regret compounds, it hardens into narrative. You start telling yourself stories about why it's too late, why you missed your chance, why you're behind. These stories justify further delay, completing the cycle. What began as hesitation turns into resignation, not because action was impossible, but because it was postponed long enough to feel unreachable. Change is unavoidable, but growth is a choice. What you refuse to release will quietly control you. What you delay will demand a higher price later. Choose the discomfort that builds you, not the comfort that erodes you.